Yeah?
I think
Wait, I just want to savor this. I like applause. I don't get it very often in my life.
this is an acceptably...
I can just go, hey,
there we go. I was going to say, what was this weak sauce, lukewarm applause from earlier? Let's do it. Let's do it.
It's going to be a bummer when they realize, like, we barely practiced this fucking thing.
You don't have to tell them that.
No, we do. So then when it's bad, like, we already prefaced it. And if it's good, then they'll be like, oh, damn, they're experts. Anyway.
Or you could just not even acknowledge the possibility.
It's all about the expectations game. Anyway, hello, everybody, and welcome to Gen 5 Isn't Pokemon, or Gen 1, a critique of the creatures introduced in the 5th generation Pokemon games. I'm Max.
And I'm Clayton.
And together we are the preservation for the foundation of Gen 1 Pokemon. You can follow us on Twitter at 5th Gen, not PKMN, and that's one of the places you can follow us. There are too many, and I'm too lazy to remember to add them to the slide. Clayton, what else is the name of this panel, actually?
This panel also goes by the name Make Pokemon Great Again, because we are trying to make sure that the Pokemon canon is returned to its proper state before Generation 5 was introduced and started confusing the minds of the youth with ideas like, these are Pokemon, which are flatly wrong. Speaking of which, apologies for turning this into a bit of a multiple choice quiz right off the bat, but we do have to start off figuring out what your level of knowledge of Gen 5 Pokemon is currently. So we're going to play a game. We're going to flash up an image of a creature that is allegedly a Pokemon, and we want you to raise your hand if you think it is a Pokemon. Put it down, keep it down if you do not believe it is a Pokemon. All right?
Wait, let's make sure they understand that. Show us what a raised hand looks like, please. We just did a hand check at a Pokemon panel, you fucking degenerates.
All right.
To an image of Donald Trump. If you didn't put your hand up,
in any case,
this is not the panel for you.
In any case, let's start off easy. Is this a Pokemon? Raise your hand if it is, keep it down if you don't think it is. I see some of you without your hands up. What the
Gary,
heck?
what the fuck?
What is wrong with you? Everyone knows Machamp is a Pokemon. It is the OG third stage fighting type. Next up, is this a Pokemon? Okay, a lot of you had your hands up, and I understand why you might be confused.
Keep them up. We need to log this.
We need to know which of you will be enemies of the state when we take power eventually.
They have their hands down. Good job, guys. Here.
But anyone who raised their hand is not correct. We actually can't speak this Pokemon's name because this isn't an 18-up panel, so I will simply refer to it as Girder Thing. The Girder Thing is not, in fact, a Pokemon.
Is this a Pokemon? Yeah, cool. Now, yeah, it is. And if you didn't raise your hand, I understand. We're in California where it is actually illegal to acquire ferrets at pet stores or breed them. But you know, if you go like anywhere else, they're everywhere.
And there's also an unusual number of ferret supplies at pet stores, even if you can't buy ferrets themselves.
I'll just have an empty cage for a ferret. Also, I mean, looks like a tube sock, let's be honest. Very cute tube sock.
Next up, is this a Pokemon? Raise your hand if you think it is, keep it down if not.
This is the perpetually online in our panels check.
See, this is the problem with democracy. The people often make the wrong choice. This actually is a Pokemon. This is Shrimp Stompora. I'm very excited about the release of this Pokemon in Generation 9. We've heard advanced confirmation that it's going to be one of the legendaries in Scarlet and Violet, I believe.
Yeah, Game Freak told me that when we were summoning Mount Everest together.
We need more water fighting types, so that's all good. And lastly, is this a Pokemon? Raise your hand if you think it is. Keep it down if you don't.
Okay, so first of all, no, that's not Snorlax. Get your shit together. B, that might be your stepdad.
C, this is also not a Pokemon because this is Emboar, the fire-type starter from Generation 5, which, it's in the name of the panel, Gen 5 isn't Pokemon.
I feel like overall they did pretty poorly.
Yeah, honestly, I'm dispirited with this audience, but we've got the speaking slot for the hour, so we should
An hour and a half.
Push on ahead. Starting off with research. Now, believe it or not, Generation 5 Pokemon is an extremely hazardous substance. So we're going to take some time to go over our workplace safety protocol to ensure that we didn't harm ourselves bringing you this banger of a panel to you lovely people at Fanime. Starting briefly with the fire diamond. I don't know if you all recognize this, but this is commonly used to illustrate different aspects of how harmful a substance might be. Generally on a scale from 0, indicating it is very unlikely to cause harm, 4 is like the highest level of harm possible. So in terms of Gen 5's ability to start flame wars, it's a 5 out of 4. It's incredibly dangerous. It is also toxic as hell, judging by some of this man's Twitter arguments he's gotten into.
Have you met a Gen 5 supporter on Twitter? Awful people. Snippy propaganda account going down.
God.
The Tepid propaganda account apparently got bullied off of Twitter briefly, so 1 down, 2 to go. Please don't bully propaganda accounts. This is not an endorsement of that.
Yellow usually refers to how reactive or explosive a substance is, which we, of course, interpret to mean the number of new versions of the move explosion that were introduced in Gen 5. This number should ideally be as high as possible. And last but not least, we've got the white section, which is generally for special symbols indicating any additional information about it. So is it a strong oxidizer? Is it acidic? Is it likely to start the 10th crusade for Constantinople? You don't want to get in on any of that. It's incredibly dangerous, and this is why we had to be safe. For all these reasons, it's actually an OSHA workplace hazard, and they would actually not let us give this panel if we did not present this to you. So, anyway.
So the first thing to do if you're researching Gen 5 is to just don't. It's pretty easy, but I fucking hate myself. Clayton, how do you feel about yourself?
I'm here, aren't I?
This wasn't an option. Option 2 is, of course, taking off our nostalgia goggles, which, no. Pokemon was great in Gen 1, it's fine in Gen 2, and then, after that, it's a caustic nightmare fuel. And I think we can all agree on that. And if anybody hasn't agreed on that, that's just because you're chasing the new thing, and that's a problem, and we need to, go back to tradition. The 9th Crusade was the best one. We don't need that 10th Crusade bullshit.
I mean, the 4th Crusade was obviously the worst one.
Yeah, I can't remember my Crusade history. I'm going to be honest with you.
That was the one where they sacked Constantinople instead of what they meant.
Let's go.
In any case, I also got my nostalgia goggles surgically implanted last week, so this one isn't an option for me. So that leaves us with the last option, which is to use a word replacer, a browser add-on that allows you to filter out toxic words or phrases and replace them with other ones. For example, instead of, if you're looking at a Bulbapedia article, it'll look something like this: Trubbish the Abomination, or Kling Clang the Dumpster Fire, from Bulbapedia, the community-driven dumpster fire encyclopedia.
I know what you're saying. Trubbish is a dumpster fire. No. We're mixing it up. We don't want to call a spade a spade. We want to call a spade a fucking loser, and then call it a spade.
Exactly. And then last but not least, we've of course got Keldeo the Brony. Now, some of you might have gotten very excited by this slide, and for you people, first of all, hand check. Right now, hand check.
Oh, this is bad.
Oh, this is really bad. Okay.
Oh, God.
Whoever didn't raise your hands, we'd like you to please file out of the panel room. There will be a guy in a suit waiting to talk to you, and he'll have some questions about your internet browsing history, among other things.
I'd like to note, when we discovered the word replacer, we used it for a lot of things. Like Ted Cruz, we switched him to butt sweat for a while.
Yeah, that made reading those articles much more tolerable.
Here's the thing. My job at the time was to collect news articles and send them out So the Speaker of the California State Assembly did receive an email that said Senator Butt Sweat. And I did not get fired for that.
I mean, it's objectively true.
That is not something to applaud.
Absolutely is something to applaud. What are you talking
Anyway,
about?
we're going to talk about combat. Because, you know, Pokemon games, there's a lot of combat. So, Gen 1 of Pokemon did invent the idea of combat. Before Gen 1, not only did we not engage in wars or crusades, the holiest of pastimes, we didn't even have conflict over like what we should have for dinner or what the best waifu is. We just all agreed it was red. But then, you know, Gen 1 came out and suddenly we realized we could fight over our problems. And, you know, wars were happening. And just even using red and blue as colors became synonymous for conflict, be it WWE 2018 or, I don't know, presidential election. But with like cementing, you know, the idea of conflict and doing it so well, Pokemon could have declared mission accomplished. But, you know, there's just so much more to invade. So much more to do.
And I'm personally glad that they didn't call it quits at Gen 1 because Gen 2 took what made Gen 1 great and perfected it. Generation 2, Gold and Silver versions were the brood war to Red and Blue version, StarCraft 1, in that it took the original and added more content to really flesh it out. Generation 2 was actually the origin of a lot of cutting-edge innovations, such as weather. Sunny Day and Rain Dance were introduced in the game, of course. You had entry hazards in the form of spikes. You had leftovers added to the game. You could say held items, but realistically, nobody used anything except leftovers. And it was the first time they tinkered with stats. You see, in Generation 2, they took the special stat from Gen 1 and split it into special attack and special defense, which didn't turn out so well for some Pokemon. In Gen 1, poor Gyarados was suffering there for a little bit. It was kind of sad to see. And of course, I could never forget, even though I almost did, that Generation 2 was also the origin of the Dark and Steel types of Pokemon to help balance out the fact that in Gen 1, Psychic types were busted 6 ways sideways, so they needed a couple of types to help rein them in.
And unfortunately inspire Sonic games for years to come. Gen 3 is where Pokemon decided, hey, what if we stopped, you know, making fun stuff and decided the game was for people with obsessive-compulsive disorder. So, you know, it used to be, you know, you catch a Pokemon and it would get all the DVs or whatever from training it and it'd be fine. But then they're like, what if we introduced, you know, natures? And suddenly, you know, only 1 out of 25 of your Pokemon is any good. And then we add in abilities. So it's like, then there's another 50% chance you only have the good Pokemon because if you have the bad ability. So suddenly, you know, you catch that Rattata you like, now it's only a 2% chance it's useful. And that's before we factor EVs into the whole situation. And suddenly you're spending your days going on walks, having your character bike up and down a route, just so you can get a perfect fucking Venomoth because you want to sweep your friend's Lucario for no reason at all, but it worked. Dude forgot how bug types resisted things.
So after many trainers poured hundreds of hours into perfecting their Pokemon teams,
only hundreds?
Okay, thousands of hours playing the secret eugenics simulator in Pokemon and filling dumpsters full of reject hatchlings that only had gasp of 30 in one of their IVs. Unacceptable.
How dare it!
The first thing Gen 4 does is completely ruin all of that for everyone by creating the special split, which was very innovative, but and helped my boy Gyarados get his swagger back because he had water types that he could use that were effective. Since now the type of an attack was based on the attack itself, right? A physical attack, like, say, Fire Punch, that involves punching, was considered physical, and Flamethrower was considered special, instead of just it being dictated by type. So all Fire type moves would have been special prior to Gen 4. If you were hoping that your perfectly bred Sceptile was still going to be able to use Leaf Blade in Generation 4 with that special stat, sorry, buddy, back to the drawing board. Generation 4 is also known for introducing Stealth Rock. This is perhaps the single most significant thing that Generation 4 has added. There are multiple Pokemon whose Smogon articles basically say one of the primary reasons this Pokemon isn't viable is because Stealth Rock exists and you cannot bring it in safely. In Generation 8, I believe, they added a new item called Heavy Duty Boots, whose sole purpose is to negate Stealth Rock. Mega Evolutions were limited to 1 per Pokemon, and that's basically a held item, and then they went ahead and added an item that just counters Stealth Rocks. So, you know, great game balance here. 10 out of 10 doesn't over-centralize the meta whatsoever.
Next we have all of the combat innovations introduced in Gen 5.
And now we're moving on.
Clayton, why is the slide empty?
Because now we're moving on to Gen 6. There's nothing significant that Generation 5 introduced. No useful features whatsoever. I don't think I've ever even done a rotation battle before. Do people even know that rotation battles are a thing? No.
Why are you jumping with joy? I mean, we didn't cover double battles either, so we're fine not covering rotations.
Max, don't kink shame. It's okay. It's current
If
year.
it's Gen 5, I mean, like, that guy, he needs to be kink shamed on this.
Let's go ahead and move on to Generation 6, though, which went ahead and introduced Warp Digivolving to your Mega Form. And beyond that, it basically just let us pick the Gen 1 starters again, which immediately meant it was a massive improvement over Gen 5.
Next we have Gen 7, which introduced the Smash Ball via Z moves. Yeah, that's about it. We got Z moves. They had some pretty good dances. I'm surprised it's not a TikTok thing, but you know how it is.
And then, of course, there's Generation 8, which basically introduced Big as a mechanic, as in, you know, we could design interesting new Mega Evolutions for Pokemon that don't have them, or we could just be lazy, make it so instead of Mega Evolving, your Pokemon just gets huge. And that doubles as a way to shoehorn Pokemon Go raids into mainline Pokemon. So win-win for lazy
To be
developers.
fair, Gigantamax music was a fucking bop.
I mean, okay.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
Absolute bop. So with that, we should talk about min-maxing. You know, the idea of taking something that was good and re-optimizing it so it's better without any further investment whatsoever. And goddamn, do we have some examples of min-maxing.
Max, before I proceed, I should let you know that my opinion, or that I have minimal respect for Max's opinions.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Violence.
But anyway, Generation 5 is especially bad at min-maxing, where a lot of the new creatures introduced are literally just reskins of existing Pokemon with better stats. Case in point, we have Exhibit A, Golem, and other Golem. And if you look at their stat spread, you'll notice that they're both slow, bulky, physical attackers. But if you look at the individual stats, you'll notice that other Golem stats are across the board better where it matters and worse where it doesn't matter. Its attack is higher, its HP is higher, its special defense is higher. So across the board, it's more able to dish out hits and it can take hits better. The one big problem is it's slower, but Golem's already about as fast as a golf cart with 4 flat tires. So it's not like taking one of those tires off is really going to change much.
Okay.
People still run Trick Room? Yeah. Oh, okay.
And they're really looking for like the most niche bullshit to justify this stuff.
So what you're saying is that actually just makes it even better than what I'm saying, because it's more useful. So It's actually just maxing in this case. It's just better across the board. It only has a single water weakness too, so it might actually survive a surf.
Hey, look, we got another problem. Here we have Stantler, who's a deer Pokemon, and then another deer Pokemon. Sorry, another deer. So basically, Stantler was, a relatively fast mixed attacker with an interesting move in Hypnosis. Not a lot of normal Pokemon had Hypnosis. It was kind of cool. I caught Stantler. I'm like, oh man, this thing knows Hypnosis. Ain't that neat? And then this thing shows up, and they re-optimized its stats so it's better. And then they went, wait, what if we just give it its own actual move in Horn Leech, which is, just physical absorb. So, that's kind of bullshit.
Physical Giga Drain.
Sorry, physical... All I know what it does is how it operates in Pokemon Unite. Like, that's it. Trevenant uses it. It's a nightmare. So we just have re-optimized... went to a spa and got its butt removed. Stantler. And I mean, I guess
Stantler...
Gen 5 not butt people? Is that kind of what it was?
I think it's more a case of Stantler also being known as the colorectal cancer Pokemon. Speaking of cancer, let's move on to the last example. We've got Machamp and the aforementioned Girder Thing that's not a Pokemon. And this is similar to Golem. They're both slow, they're both physical attackers, but Girder Thing has better stats where it matters and lower stats where it doesn't. Its HP is higher, its attack is higher, and it has higher defense. Machamp has better special attack, so if you're really dying to run like Choice Specs, Focus Blast, Fire Blast, Vacuum Wave, I guess Machamp is going to be moderately better at that, but first of all, if you're actually running a Machamp with that moveset, mad respect. I love meme builds, but you should also understand that what you're doing is objectively a bad idea. And beyond that, they're literally the same. Machamp is a third stage fighting type that evolves via trading. Girder Thing is a third stage fighting type that evolves via trading, and next, let's move on to the next slide. This is depressing.
We're going to talk about speed, not the drug. So most Pokemon stats are divisible by 5. So, you have like a base stat 40 attack or 55 defense. And if that strays a little bit with most stats, it's fine. The difference between a base 55 and a base 56 attack generally isn't too much. Speed is a whole different ballpark for that, though, because with the speed stat, being one higher means you're always going to go first, which is a massive advantage compared to having one higher attack. So, in Gen 1, in this beautiful chart we have, you can see all of those Pokemon on the bottom half are Gen 1 Pokemon with base 100 speed. On the top half, you have Gen 5 Pokemon with 101 base speed. Because, why just make it better by just giving it one speed? That's great. And this is, of course, something confined to Gen 5 and has never happened once otherwise.
Never happened in Gen 1.
Nope.
Fake news. Totally fake news. Next up, we've got power creep. This is a concept that is, I think most people encounter it with respect to trading card games, collectible trading card games, as an incentive to encourage people to continue buying new cards after they already have functioning decks. Because the new releases are always just a little bit better than the old ones. So if you want to stay competitive, you gotta keep paying money. In this case...
It's shock when there's lightning bolt, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And, Gen 5 does this in spades. Here we have 3 of the worst examples. The one on the left...
You heard what we fucking said! You know what you're here for! Boo him!
Fire Moth sucks.
Wait. I'm relishing in our power.
So the Fire Moth on the left is frequently cited as a justification for the existence of Stealth Rock, which just illustrates why Gen 5 is terrible, because they could have fixed the problem of Stealth Rock instead of just adding a Pokemon that was so broken it required Stealth Rock to justify its existence. Also, it has a stupid fire special move that boosts special attack and does damage, so it's like Power Up Punch, but worse for the game, so it's... Yeah.
Next, we have what is clearly if a Sandslash had sex with road spikes and then got really good stats out of it somehow, because I guess road spikes just have really high base attack. So this is upsetting, because it is stronger than Dragonite, but I could still definitely run it over with my old Subaru Outback. And I feel like something as strong as Dragonite should not be defeated by a 2003 LL Bean Edition Subaru Outback. That's just the rule. Sure, my wheels will go flat running over its stupid fucking face, but man, that's worth it.
And lastly, we've got this hideous thing on the right.
Wait. I just noticed this. Also, its speed is 88, which is just like a really bad number if you're aware of the alt-right. That thing is a fucking Nazi Pokemon, I'm just saying.
And on the right, we've got Darmanitana Boblana, or whatever the heck its name is. This is one of the worst cases of min-max stats I've ever seen. Despite having a base stat total that's under 500, its attack stat is higher than Dragonite's, which I was told in the Primus Strategy Guide for Gen 1 that Dragonite has the highest attack stat of any Pokemon, and that therefore should always be true. So whenever I see something with more attack than Dragonite, it just makes me physically angry. But also, the gap, look at its special attack, 30. Most Pokemon with high, even Machamp, even Girder thing, has more special attack than that. This thing has the highest gap between its attack and special attack stats of any Pokemon I've come across other than Mega Beedrill, which was quite literally Game Freak going out of its way to debatably in vain, depending on your view on the meta, make Beedrill into a Pokemon that wasn't complete flaming garbage and was actually useful. So that was patching a terrible Pokemon. This is just something new that they created, and all you have to do is spam Flare Blitz and you win. It's great.
Next, we're going to talk about the dragon-dominated metagame. Everybody loves dragons. They're pretty cool, you know, if you're 6. So, in Pokemon, dragons are much like... I'm not going to make that joke. Dragons are not like a common typing, but the dragons that do exist are good. So, because of that, if you look at like Gens 2 and 3, dragons representation in the meta is in the OU meta is about 6 to 8%, which is about what you'd expect for most types. With Gen 5, they went, what if we, got rid of the uncommon part of dragons, but kept the really good part of dragons? So suddenly they skyrocketed up to 14%, and it took Gen 6 and the introduction of Fairy type to bring them down. Boo!
Former Vice President Mike Pence is very upset that Fairy is not weak to electric.
If he had his way, Fairy moves would turn electric moves would turn Fairy Pokemon into grass types. There we go. I know the joke. I know my jokes. Aesthetics.
Great transition.
We went over how ugly they were a little bit earlier, and we're going to keep fucking doing that, because look how ugly these fucking things are.
So here we've got 2 sets of paired fighting types. One set from Gen 1, one set from Gen 5. And it's immediately obvious that the artistic inspiration for the original Pokemon is significantly better than it is for the later Pokemon, which I guess it's Red Thing and Blue Thing are their names. I don't know what they're actually called. But first off, of course, we have Hitmonchan's inspiration, which was noted Japanese martial artist Jackie Chan, known for going on numerous adventures to hunt down the ancient talismans, defeat the forces of darkness, and provide great moral lessons for the children at the end. And of course, Hitmonlee was inspired by noted martial artist Bruce Lee, shown here kicking the internet's ass, or I guess mid-2000s.
Honestly, anytime I see someone kick Chuck Norris's ass, that's just a good day for me. So anyway,
he endorsed Mike Huckabee in 2012.
Yeah, boo,
you should be laughing. That's hilarious.
So now they did base Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan after Game Freak's favorite characters from the hit 90s anime Jackie Chan Adventures. I think we can all agree on that. But I think they chose the wrong characters. We did a popularity poll, and it looks as though the most famous two characters are Uncle and Jackie Chan, with Bruce Lee narrowly beating out Jade for third, and nobody likes Emboar. So really, we shouldn't have Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. We should have Hitmonchan and Hitmon Uncle. He could use Umo Gregory Faisal. I don't know what it would do, but it'd be great. Yeah, it's good against ghost types. It's a fighting move that hits ghost types. There we go, we did it.
He would be banned to anything goes immediately upon introduction.
Oh yeah, especially because he could just hit the opposing trainer.
Oh, absolutely.
Just like Ash's Haunter in the Marsh Gym patch.
So, obviously the Gen 1 paired fighting types, great artistic inspiration. But the Gen 5, one is literally named after that thing you peel off your foot when you're done at the gym. And the other one is named after the subject of the hit Lonely Island single, Throw It on the Ground. And is that it? Is that really the best they could come up with? It's just lazy writing.
I mean, it's Gen 5. Continuing on with, just clear OC do not steal energy. We have Tentacruel, a common water type, which is kind of a special tank, and we have Jaleficent, a commonish water type that is a special tank. We have Golbat, and then we have Golbat after someone told him he was a good boy and gave him a lot of pets. Both of those evolved through friendship. And then we have Clefable and Clefable against Clayton. Those are supposed to be two different images.
God damn it, I messed up again. Sorry, they should have been different images, but as you can see, those are literally the same JPEG file.
Same, okay, low-hanging fruit, okay.
Oh, good.
First, we have that fucking garbage with pigtails. Ruined pigtails. Pigtails were fine until this thing came out. Now they're trash.
Tiny Kong was rocking them in DK64.
Yeah.
Now they're not cool.
Next, every time I see this thing, I want to take up smoking just so I can put a cigarette out on it to increase its misery. But it looks like it turns those into fingers. It's growing more powerful based off of my hatred, which is fucked up. Also, its other arm is clearly like a gas hose, so it's definitely a Republican. Next, we have Kling Klang, or whichever one of those it is, I don't care, which has demonstrated that Game Freak does not understand how physics engines work. Because those gears aren't all connected with teeth, so I don't understand how moving one moves all of them. If you notice, the first three in the center, those are connected. And then you have that middle pinkish orange one underneath, but that doesn't have teeth connecting to the center three, nor does it have one connecting one to the outer rim. This is not how you're supposed to, this is why the American education system is failing. They're learning science from Pokemon Black White. And then we have the ice cream cone, that motherfucking ice cream cone. I think we can all agree, the N64 controller was a terrible design. Awful design. Why did they base a Pokemon off of it? And then, that's not how you do ice cream. When have you gone, I want 2 scoops. 1 scoop, 2 scoop. It's not how it works. You go 1, 2. You don't go 1, turn it sideways, hope it stays on and put the other down. And it's fucking vaping! Smug piece of shit!
Really encouraging bad habits in the youth. Unacceptable.
And finally, we have what, within a couple months, is going to legally be a Pokemon across the country. But if our Ruth Bader Ginsburg just retired in 2014, maybe that wouldn't be a problem anymore. But she didn't, and now that's a Pokemon. God damn it!
So we've gone over some examples of the poor aesthetic design of Generation 5 abominations. So it's only fair to go over the obviously superior aesthetic design of Generation 1 Pokemon.
Oh, thank God, these are so much prettier.
And I know what you all might be thinking right now. Clayton, you've literally picked the worst possible examples of Generation 1 to defend. To which I have to say, y'all's ignorant. You need to be educated right now because you're wrong. 2, if I can make this work, it proves that all of Gen 1 is better. So here we go. First up, Voltorb. People say it's lazy because it's just a Pokeball. But when you're going around picking up items in the overworld, what do these Pokemon look like? Or what do these items look like? They look like Pokeballs. Voltorb looks like a Pokeball. But sometimes you try to pick up the Pokeball item and it blows up in your face and tries to murder you. Because Voltorb is the Pokemon equivalent of a Mimic. Basically, the monstrous treasure chest that tries to eat you if you fall for the trap. It is simply paying homage to that classic monster from Dungeons and Dragons, Dark Souls, and plenty of other fantasy settings. I see a hand up. Yeah. What about Fungus?
No. No.
It has a Pokeball painted on it. It's not. If you confuse it,
That's not. No.
if you confuse that for a Pokeball, that's your own damn
I know
fault.
you're the guy who's been painting Pokeballs on random funguses. I know it's you. Because you're pretty fucking sus.
Because
dude.
that's lazy even by Pokemon pun standards. Speaking of allegedly lazy naming, we've got Muck, the blob of slime, which people say is it's just a blob. This isn't an interesting design. How could you possibly love Muck? First of all, don't you dare say that about my boy Muck. Muck is great. Second, Generation
cuddly.
1, being the first generation, had to lay the groundwork for what different type archetypes were going to look like. Charizard was one of the first fire types. Dragons are commonly associated with fire, so it makes sense that they would have that as one of basal fire types. Similarly, Sludge is commonly associated with poison, water pollution, industrial runoff, and so it is serving as an archetypal poison type while also paying homage to oozes from, say, Dungeons and Dragons, Warcraft, and other similar fantasy genres, the creature from the Black Lagoon, the blob. It turns out blob monsters are actually just already a common type of creature and therefore a natural thing to represent in Pokemon. So don't even at me on this. Muck is a great Pokemon, way better than anything in Gen 5. And last but not least, we have
No, Mr. Mime's been canceled.
I was gonna say he's the bad touch Pokemon.
Yeah, he got me too. So let's
if
talk.
I had my doll with me, I would ask you where, but we don't have to go there.
Okay, so now obviously we have to go over just the most heinous design of them all, which is Firestarter, right? Emboar.
Yeah, that's
Clayton.
yeah. It's
That's Hariyama.
you asked for the sumo wrestler Pokemon.
You're right, I did ask for the sumo wrestler
Fuck, okay,
Pokemon. You're
okay,
right. You're right. Okay.
So you asked right. You asked for the one that's a firefighting starter. So here you go.
Fuck. That's Blaziken. I mean, yeah, it's a firefighting starter, but it's not the right firefighting starter.
Wait, there's more than there's more than one. That's right. Okay, the one that's a firefighting starter that's also a mammal.
Wait, why did you put Harambe on the screen? That's a later slide.
Okay, sorry about technical difficulties. This one should be the right image.
Clayton, what the fuck?
That was supposed to be for later tonight. I apologize if I have said too much about my preferences. Let's move on.
Hand check.
Hand check.
Yeah, it went better than last time.
Still a lot of you need Jesus, obviously. And last but not least, I suppose we actually have. Actually, I don't think that's Emboar either. This doesn't look like
No, I
Toad
don't-
from Jackie Chan Adventures.
I'm
But,
upset.
But it does illustrate that Generation 5 failed to stop the momentum of literally every fire starter is also a fighting type. To the point when I hear fire fighting or firefighter, it gives me PTSD attacks. And it's just terrible. Max, can we move on to something
Yeah,
else?
let's talk about badges. I just
thank
realized there was a slide we forgot to put back in. Oh well.
No, there wasn't.
We'll realize it's not there soon. So, here are the badges from Gen 1, and aren't they? No, those aren't it. These are Gary's badges, which he clearly bought off of Etsy. He has the Weighted Companion Cube badge from when he defeated GLaDOS. There's the Quill badge when he defeated noted Beyblade John Hancock. And of course the Liberty Bell when he electrocuted Benjamin Franklin with his own kite.
I think there's also the Taco Bell badge, which is when he was just really hungry at 2 in the morning.
You get it if you're stoned. So here are the Gen 1 badges.
And they're perfectly designed. They're simple, they're straightforward, they're pretty looking, and they tell you exactly what gym leader you defeated. The boulder badge is a boulder. The water badge is a water. And the earth badge is a grass. Perfect one-to-one comparison, not confusing in the slightest.
That's in contrast with the Gen 5 badges. Here we have, I mean, the Ox lets you use strength outside of battle, which makes sense, but the fact that the dog is a recover TM, like, I don't fucking get it. In fact, Clayton.
Yeah, Max.
Why do you keep fucking up these slides? These are the talismans from Jackie Chan Adventures.
Look, man. We're at con. I had a lot to drink last night. It's a miracle this thing is done.
We've had this panel for 6 years. How do you keep fucking this up?
Can we move on to the next one?
Give me the next badges.
Here are the Gen 5 badges.
We have the sun to let the sun shine in. We have the heart because everybody needs some love, and you know the cross badge to make Mike Pence happy. Clayton, these are the Digimon sigils.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me. Okay.
I mean, Digimon was trying to get itself confused with Pokemon, so that just means their marketing team was successful.
You do the next one. I don't want to see you right now.
These are the real Gen 5 badges right here. You've got the Millennium Pyramid for grain storage, the Millennium Ankh for Ankh storage, and the Millennium Falcon for fuck.
What's next? You're gonna have some fucking cryptos? Yeah, you're gonna have some fucking cryptos, aren't you? At least one of those is a real currency. That's not it. It's the Zimbabwe dollar. Okay, so here are the Gen 5 badges, I guess.
Are you sure? Those look an awful lot like your dad's toothpick collection.
Wait, he showed you his toothpick collection? He's never showed me his toothpick collection.
Hate is gonna hate. What are you gonna do?
I have to fight you and the horse for the inheritance. This is bullshit. Let's talk about racism. That's how you transition to that, right? Yeah, we're gonna talk about James. Are you happy? Almost like you've seen our panel before. Okay, you look like a guy who was really annoying in 2019. Okay, so
we believe you.
Obviously, Pokemon has a lot of risky shit. They took Jinx and they had to recolor it. That's fucking racist. And there was some guy online who watched this panel and then responded to all of the racism claims on it. And only the racism claims.
Making dudes type paragraphs for days.
He had a whole fucking thread. And he started on this one. He's like, well, actually, it's based on a fashion style. It's like, no, that's fucked up. You could maybe make that if, every interpretation of a black person in Japanese media wasn't fucking this.
Minimally, you could make the fashion case for Mr. Popo's exquisite vest he's got on. I want one of those.
Yeah, Japan. Everything Japan knows about black people, they learned from watching fucking American minstrel shows. So that's not a joke. That's a real thing. Next, we have Gen 3. Some people might say Ludicolo is based off of the combination of a pineapple and a kappa. No, it's not. It is very clearly...
It's wearing a sombrero.
It's wearing a sombrero. It gets worse. In Gen 3, there are 3 evolution lines that learn Thief.
By level
He's one of them. He's almost always portrayed as a waiter at a taqueria or something like that. To the extent even in the cards. Pokemon, and now we get to Pokemon Black White.
Because Gen 5 is also the worst at racism, it turns out.
This gets beaten handily. Here's the white version exclusive. This is Lilligant. And Lilligant looks like a nice, Southern belle from, I don't know, the 1850s.
Before the Civil War.
Yeah, at a plantation house. What's on the plantation?
This is the black version exclusive. Honestly, did they even check this? They literally could have flipped them around and it would have been a little better.
Not much. Here's how you know they had the opportunity to check it and didn't, because this is Lenora. Doesn't look too bad. Here's the original art. It's Aunt Jemima. So at least in the American version, they went, okay, that's too far. But Cotton evolving into a little black man with prankster, that's fine. Yeah, I know it's bad.
Yeah.
Let's move on to literally anything else now.
Literally anything else, please. Yeah, so we're going to move on to Pokemon's representation in other games briefly. Starting off, of course, with Super Smash Bros., which, as we know, has introduced several Pokemon to its ranks of playable fighters, including Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Pichu, Mewtwo, etc., etc. One thing you'll notice is there's not nearly enough Gen 1 representation here. It's only like half to 2/3 Gen 1, and it should be like at least 150%. 151%, excuse me. Generation 1. Not in the least because, honestly, right around the time that Super Smash Bros. Brawl came out, 2007-ish, that's kind of when the California drought started getting a lot worse. And I think there's obviously a one-to-one causal relationship between that and Groudon's inclusion as a Pokeball in Super Smash Bros. So, literally a case where straying too far from established properties has led us into the abyss.
I mean, Groudon's just doing the drought. That's why he's not in the game. Gen 5 doesn't have an excuse for no representation. Anyway, actually, Pokemon Unite. The nice thing about Pokemon Unite is that the map is very complex. In comparison to the Gen 5 map, which is boring as shit. I don't know how, a 10-minute MOBA has a more interesting map layout than a game, but you sure go off. Obviously, the Pokemon roster has a little bit to be desired. I think Gen 1 is obviously criminally underrepresented in this series. And, they're adding new Pokemon. I think Glaceon is next or something. That's Gen 4. No, I can think of so many more things that should go on before Glaceon. Countless.
I count 151.
Yeah, I count 151. So, there's one Gen 5 Pokemon in there, that's Crustle. And that is upsetting to me. But I think Pokemon Unite has righted that wrong. Because if you look at the average monthly play rates among top 100 players in Pokemon Unite, Crustle is the only thing at 0%. Literally every Pokemon gets at least some level of play among the top players, except Crustle. They went, wow, Crustle, why do we put that in there? So they introduced Greedent and just have it be a better Crustle. That way no one played it anymore. It's great. It's just like Pokemon Unite really justifying that Gen 5 isn't a thing. And who am I to say this? I don't know. It's just a guy who writes about Pokemon Unite. And since I get paid to give hot Pokemon takes, I can say that Gen 5's not Pokemon. Therefore, Pokemon Black White is not Pokemon. Checkmate atheists.
By the iron law of capitalism, because he gets money for his opinions, they therefore are correct.
Do you get paid for your Pokemon hot takes? I fucking do.
So, of course, this leads into the canonical spread of Pokemon titles. You'll see you have generations 1 through 7. We didn't skip one. There's nothing between Gen 4 and Gen 6. These are all the Pokemon.
Everyone was on vacation. Oh, I thought you were. Okay. Yeah, everyone was on vacation. But, you know, in order to fix it, in order to make sure this is official canon, we need to steal the declaration of Gen 5 Pokemon from Game Freak headquarters. We're calling it Operation HX2. Except instead of overthrowing a democratically elected Iranian government because they were trying to socialize their oil, we're stealing Pokemon Black White from headquarters. We do need a third. Raise your hand if you want to be our third. Okay, you're our third.
Thank you.
Do I know what you're going to do?
I have no fucking...
Okay, you're going to find out real soon. You're going to love it.
The blue hair will be helpful.
Oh yeah, you've got the right colors for this plan. Okay, do you want to start the plan, Clayton?
Yeah, so obviously, you know, the Pokemon Game Freak's headquarters are complex. Very small number of points of entry are vulnerable, which is why we made sure to steal the plans in advance, so we're set there. We're going to go ahead and, looking down at the blueprints here, we see this is too many, but their sacrifice is for the greater good. The greater good of making sure Pokemon is not polluted anymore. Speaking of pollution, we've identified that the Gen 5 master code is in the bathroom, specifically the toilet, because even Game Freak recognizes that it is literally shit. But the problem is there are some security guards.
Okay, so what's your name again? Casey. Okay, so Casey. AC.
AC.
Sorry. AC, what we're going to need you to do is dress up like Sonic the Hedgehog. Game Freak has a kill on sight for anyone dressed as Sonic the Hedgehog.
It's left over from the Super Nintendo Genesis days when Mario and Sonic were locked in a brutal struggle for dominance of the gaming industry. And so there was serious concern that Sonic the Hedgehog himself would try to zip past security and steal everything at a Nintendo. So it's still useful, so they haven't updated it. Also, it's just funny to laugh.
It's a good way to get rid of the security guards. I'm sorry about your death, but you can have a Pokeball out of it. Oh, I threw it at that guy.
Hey.
Fight him. Good job. So after you get murdered, we break in. We go up the stairs, and then we start going through. We do some sick cartwheels and flips and whatever we have to do to avoid the laser security system. I'm not sure if it's there, but like, cartwheels and flips are cool. Then we're going to stop in the snack room. You remember Pokemon gummies? They weren't discontinued. They're just all in that snack room and we want some.
So we definitely got to swipe some of those first while we're here.
So we swipe or no swiping some Pokemon gummies. Leave, do some more cool shit, walk into the room where Masahiro Sakurai is presumably sleeping. Take a quick moment to read him a nice bedtime story.
I choose the first generation Prima strategy guide. It's my favorite bedtime story to go to sleep at night.
It's true, we shared a room once. I had to read him the learn sets of all 151 Pokemon every night. Then we jump over his bed, and we get into the bathroom, and what's that, Clayton?
So you mentioned laser fences earlier.
I did, yes.
So I did some snooping around, and I worked out that the laser fence is lethal, but only has enough energy to fully vaporize one person before draining its capacitors. So
we're bringing a fourth with us, right?
You can just throw my...
No, that's too much work.
The cops have you.
Sorry, Max. All right.
I'm dead.
And, of course, after I triumphantly recover the master key to Generation 5, that is when I will run up to the top level. My boy Gandalf is already waiting in the wings to hook me up with the Eagles. That way the Eagles can fly me and Pikachu over to Mount Doom to cast this abomination into the fire from whence it came to save humanity from it. Before... Oh God. Pikachu, you swine, how could you?
So, you know, we've been spreading the word on 5th gen Pokemon for a while, and we're not the first people to do it. There have been countless other truth tellers before us. But you haven't heard of them, have you? Where have they been? And I think I found out where. If you look at US pedestrian deaths from vehicles over the past 30 years, there's a clear turning point. In about the time Pokemon Gen 5 comes out. where suddenly everyone's getting hit by cars. Absolute pandemic. Now, I know what you're saying. It might be because trucks are just a lot bigger now and way better at fucking killing you. No, that's not it. I mean, it is, but there's a reason. Game Freak met with Big Truck and said, we need you to make these trucks bigger so we can drive our agents out and hit these people who are saying Gen 5 isn't Pokemon and take them out. I've been hit like 8 times in the past 3 years. I'm still here. I'm still speaking the truth. Game Freak isn't gonna get me, but apparently their laser fence is.
Next up, we can't do a deep dive into any fantasy setting without going over the mythology of that setting. It's also just an excuse to have this very pretty bit of artwork I found on Google Images.
We're very certain if that art wasn't pretty, this section would be gone.
Well, you know, maybe. But in any case, the unfortunate thing is that, you know, Pokemon mythology started out simple. You had the 3 legendary birds. You had Lugia, the guardian of the sea, who was the custodian of the legendary birds. Ho-Oh, the guardian of the skies, who was the custodian of the legendary beasts. And you had Mewtwo, who was kind of just there as humanity and science going too far and dooming us all. Now the mythology's just gotten too complicated. You start off with, you know, the Alpha and the Omega up top, who creates, I guess, like yin and yang and all this weird stuff. Humans are related to Pokemon now in some way that's like very vague and not defined well. And then if you want to check out like the real mythology that I just went over, you got to go all the way to the very bottom, right, where you see the birds and the beasts. When honestly, it should be as complicated as the birds and the beasts and Ash getting all the women. Just birds and the beasts, birds and the bees.
That's Ash making out with the Pokemon, Clayton.
Why do you have to tell me these things, Max? Ignorance is bliss.
No, that's Ash X Latias.
Well, it's still not at, it's God. Sorry, you broke me, Max. You broke me by the revelation.
Good.
Let's move on to a family tree that is much simpler and way more degenerate, which is the Greek family tree of the Greek gods, which looks complicated before you realize that the entire thing is just Zeus and incest, which is very easy to understand, and really ties in with what I think is the pinnacle of simplified mythological family trees, which is, of course, that of the Jackie Chan Adventures universe, where you have an unknown parent giving birth to Shendu, possibly via budding, we don't know. And then you have Shendu with an unknown partner, presumably a sibling, because I've played too much Crusader Kings to be able to conceive of relationships that don't involve incest, so there's that. And of course they give birth to Draco, who is a noted Jackie Chan Adventures antagonist and also a bit of a Trump supporter, so fuck him.
So, I know you're all wondering how we feel about Gen 8. Mostly because we made this slide 3 years ago and we're not updating it. So, Gen 9 will come out, it'll get updated, but you know, Pokemon Sword Art Online and Pokemon Rising of the Shield Hero. How do we feel? Yampers is pretty cute, gotta say. Took them a while to give us a Corgi Pokemon, but they didn't fucking disappoint.
The problem is that's the only thing in Gen 8 that doesn't disappoint, because you've also got this thing, which is literally just a furry version of Hitmonlee with a soccer ball. And the fact that it kicks soccer balls is all the proof in the world that you need to know that this thing is fire fucking fighting type. So, Generation 8 hasn't fixed it either. Literally every fire type since Generation 3, every fire type starter has been a fighting type. Excuse you, this thing learns Mega Kick, which is a fighting type move. And have you used Mega Kick? Have you tried to use Mega Kick with this thing on a ghost type? It doesn't work. You know why? Because it's a fighting type. Okay.
So does
I don't see
Rapidash.
your point.
Rapidash is in a flying type. Anyway, I can't, like, the fuck is this? Like, this, fire starters have had pretty solid, inspiration. We've had the dragon for Gen 1. We've had the volcano from Gen 2.
Volcanicity.
Volcanicity. Tyrannosaurus salad. We have fucking Angry Birds for Gen 3. We have Harambe for Gen 4.
We've got a sumo wrestler for Gen 5, I guess. It's Toru. It's Toru.
It could get worse.
It could get worse.
It's going downhill.
You don't want to check people's browsing history related to this Pokemon, so let's go ahead and move on to, the Wrestling Heel, which is also a fire fighting type, because even when they make a dark type fire starter, it's still a fucking fighting type. Let's be real. Look at it.
I mean, he's in Smash Brothers. He's got to be a fighting type. That's how it goes.
And then for Generation 8, it just keeps getting worse, because now it is just a bunch of soccer hooligans staging the second worst riot over the past couple of years.
What was the first? The third was when all those fucking Rick and Morty fans went to get the Szechuan sauce.
Can we move away from this and move on?
Yeah, dude, Gen 9's looking good.
Yeah, Gen 9's looking great. I actually really love the inspiration for that, for the Gen 9 starter.
This will be fun. Oh, it's just coming out on my computer. Sucks for you guys. There we go. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Cool. What? I'm fine with the big flying. Oh, no. Flat fuck supremacy, let's go.
My hot take on the Gen 9 starter,
I just hit a button.
my hot take on the Gen 9 starter is I hope it's a fire grass type because it looks like an apple gator. In any case, unfortunately, the disappointment with Gen 8 doesn't end there, because they could have given us more interesting regional forms of Generation 2 Pokemon. The Brood War of Gen 1, my personal favorite generation, which means the fact that Game Freak hasn't catered its development schedule exclusively to my taste makes me deeply upset.
Where's Alolan Typhlosion?
Where is...
Negative Furret.
Or perhaps the best example of a regional variant of a Gen 2 Pokemon possible, Millennial Xatu.
No, that's not what we got. Clayton, what the fuck did we get?
We got this thing. And before you simply say, oh, this is just like doing a re-release of Darmanitan Bobana, therefore, it's just if it's not a Pokemon already and they add a remake of not a Pokemon, that's not a problem, right? Y'all don't understand math. Here's time for a lecture. So in Generation 1, you've got 151 Pokemon. This is well known. Generation 2, or Generation 5, they added 155 creatures, and you'll notice that I have a letter I written next to it. This is because, since they're not Pokemon, it has 155 imaginary Pokemon. It has an imaginary number of Pokemon in it. And if you know anything about imaginary numbers, if you raise the 0 power, it's still 1. If you raise the imaginary number to the first power, it is an imaginary number. But if you square an imaginary number, you get -1. Which means by duplicating imaginary Pokemon, you're actually squaring an imaginary number and therefore creating negative Pokemon. So imagine if you're Gorbis, thoroughly mediocre but still perfectly respectable example of a
With
Pokemon.
tits for some reason. Hand check.
Hand check. full of degenerates.
You're welcome.
So
Gorbis
imagine
has
if you're
tits,
Gorbis.
you're welcome.
Imagine if you're Gorbis and you run into this thing. Not only are you now dead, you're completely removed from the series now. Gorbis is no longer a Pokemon because this thing exists. And there's more problems with this because if you look at... I can't believe I'm about to favorably compare Darmanitan Bobana from Gen 5 to anything, but if you look at the Zen forms...
Clayton.
Yes, Max.
That's the cover from the hit straight to VHS horror film Jack Frost 2. Get frostier.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I didn't have time to clean this up. But, yeah, I think that... do we have to look at this? Can we look at the other image?
Yeah, we can look at that.
Let's go back to the
look
other
at
image. That's better.
Banger.
But if you compare, the Zen forms, minimally what I can say about the Gen 5 version, it at least goes for an interesting thing where if you want to go for the hidden ability, it actually turns it from a physical attacker to a special attacker, which opens up different strategic possibilities, which is interesting. This simply gets higher attack than the base version of Darmanitan Bobana. Goes from 140 to 160. 160, by the way, is more attack than fucking Mewtwo has special attack. So it's better at attacking in its domain than what was literally the best Pokemon in Gen 1. So, that's already a problem. It also has more speed than Mewtwo. So, God, they took the min-max problem that Darmanitan already had and made it even worse. And the problem is, that's not even the best way to use this new form of Darmanitan Bobana. Because its base ability, Guerrilla Tactics, is literally a free choice band that doesn't require a held item slot. So you know how I was saying earlier that if you just slap Flare Blitz on a choice band on Darmanitan Bobana, you can just go to town and just fucking, mouse one to victory? This lets you do that without a held item, or you can stack a choice band on top of your free choice band and have choice band. And honestly, the whole thing is just bullshit. This is the one of the most cancerous examples of the people we're criticizing listening to our panels, taking our advice and using it to be even worse.
The only advice you should take from us is use choice specs to champ.
Absolutely, that's good advice. So, in conclusion, our take on Generation 8, Emboar out of 7, not Pokemon.
We have demands for Gen 9.
What about Emboar? It's not a remake of Pokemon, but it's really based on them.
We're on our demand. We're short on time. Demand 1, take its feet to the fucking ground. If I get one more goddamn bipedal cat starter, I'm gonna lose my shit. He's cute. Keep it cute. Feet, ground.
Demand 2, stop fucking with Tackle. Tackle's not even an attack you typically keep after level 10, yet every damn generation, they seem like they want to change its effect. Like, tinker with it. They changed its accuracy for some reason. They changed its... They increased its power from 35 to 50, and then literally, one gen later, they nerfed it again. And in Generation 8, it does something completely different. I'm pretty sure it's just a metronome clone at this point, and it's honestly just hard to keep track of. And of course...
I don't remember. Oh, yeah. Demand 3. Okay, so in Gen 1, we got Pokemon based off of 2 of the 4 greatest martial artists of all time, Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. And in Gen 2, they added the 3rd of the 4th greatest martial artist of all time, Beyblade. The 4th greatest martial artist has not yet been put in a Pokemon game, and they need to add it. Clayton, show us the martial artist.
This is why we're demanding that in Generation 9, they finally stop teasing us and add Shrimp Stompura as the second ever water fighting type. Because remember, Keldeo the Brony is Gen 5, therefore not a Pokemon. And Shrimp Stompora is going to be excellent. It's going to have, the same defense as Hitmonchan, so it's got the same Hitmon Pokemon going on, and it has a fantastic moveset, full of exciting attacks like Stomp. Shrimp Stompora, what are you expecting? Or Explosion of Flavor. Ska Attack, which is like Sky Attack, except with ska. Cheddar Bay Biscuit. Its second most powerful move, which is only surpassed by its OM Gigantamaximist ability, all you can eat shrimp for $4.99.
Demand 4. These aren't problems. These are features. Those are all good. Bring back Gen 1 misses. Not everything should be perfect. The fact that Scratch always hits is bullshit. I want a 255 out of 256 chance. Let's bring some fucking luck back into Pokemon and have it stop being so power gamey. Also tie critical hits to speed again. That was pretty cool. Just, don't do it as badly. Have it be a lower rate. Trying to go fast, we don't have a lot left.
Give people a reason to invest in speed beyond whatever is the bare minimum to make sure you go first. It makes the stat more interesting. Demand square root of -1. We must gather the Infinity Stones, snap our mighty fingers, and not only completely remove the number 5 from existence because it is thoroughly tainted by now, but we also need to institute a mandatory update patch for all present, future, and past Pokemon games, removing all Generation 5 Pokemon from the game. Therefore, you'll download a patch next time you boot up Black and White, and all of your Gen 5s will be deleted. No trace of them whatsoever. You can't find them anymore. Completely removed from the game code. That's our demand for Gen 5.
Demand 6. Bring back Missing No.
Bring back Missing No.
Demand 7. I want a Team Rocket edition. Remember that one guy who asked you if you'd like to join Team Rocket? Yes, I fucking would.
Didn't give you an option. What the hell?
Yeah, it's bullshit. I could have hung out with Jesse and James. Look at how much fun I'm having. We could have done crimes and lowered property property values. Yeah, it's you gotta fix the housing crisis somehow.
Next up, we've got Demand 8, which is Nintendo, give us an N64 classic. I don't mean that Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack BS. I mean an actual N64 classic physical console, like with the SNES Classic, full of the N64's greatest hits, such as Super Mario 64, DK64, and of course Pokemon Stadium 2, which is the definitive way to experience competitive Pokemon. If you're not battling your Pokemon at 480 interlaced resolution with a tumor sticking out of the controller, you're not doing it right.
Oh, and then add Pokemon Crystal.
I mean, yeah, to the game, built into the Game Boy Tower, just have a Pokemon Crystal.
Orders out. Demand 3. Cool guys don't look at explosions. No, we need more explosions. Sure, they added a fairy type explosion, Misty explosion, but it sucks. So we need more explosions, better explosion moves. You can give us a poison one, call it Overdose. It'll toxic the enemy when it takes them out. You can give us an ice one, Physical, Shatter. It'll freeze them when it hits. You can give us a fire one, just rename, honestly, retype explosion. It should be fire type. And of course, for electric, you can give us Pacific Gas and Electric Company. They took out my dad's house. They'll take out you'll take out Gary next. And Demand 9, make Paper Mario. Demand 10, do this. And then panel